I am deeply concerned about the escalating repression of First Amendment protected speech and assembly on college campuses across our country. To all the elected university boards and appointed presidents, it needs to be very clear, your students' constitutional rights doesn't end when they enter your campus grounds. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to submit for the record the statements from the ACLU and from Bend the Arc.
Without objection.
In the ACLU statement, Mr. Speaker, it says, quote, as you fashion responses to the activism of your students and faculty and staff, it is essential that you not sacrifice principles of academic freedom and free speech that are at a core to the educational mission of your respected institutions. From Bend the Arc statement, protest, quote, protest is essential to our movement work and must be protected. And we firmly stand against anti-Semitism being used as an excuse to threaten free speech and criticism of university and U.S. policy. To be clear, criticism of American policy towards Israel is not inherently anti-Semitic, end of quote. Mr. Speaker, dissent is a fundamental American value. From the civil rights movement to anti-war protests to the movement for Black lives, immigrant rights, our country has a long history of student-leading movements for change and challenging the status quo that oppresses and normalizes genocides across the world. I am deeply moved by the courageous young people in more than 100 encampments at colleges across our nation that are demanding divestment in support of a genocide in Gaza, an apartheid government of Israel.
She's gonna get censured for this. Like, by a vote of with 423 yeses.
I had the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to visit an encampment, University of Michigan, that has public programming. They put it online for families and on various issues. The day I went, they were recognizing the anniversary of the Armenian genocide, and having someone also speak about the connectivity to the Palestinian Nakba. It was inspiring to see these brave students across races of all faiths and backgrounds standing side by side in solidarity to protest for peace. From Jummah prayer to Shabbat, they are coming together in a way I wish my colleagues would welcome. Sending in militarized police forces and even snipers to stop these students for exercising their First Amendment right is truly disgusting. My colleagues are so outraged by students opposing genocide and apartheid, but many of these same members were completely silent last year when we saw the dramatic increase of threats, literally death threats, on historical Black colleges and universities across the country. These state-sanctioned violence, including the arrest and threatened felony prosecutions of students, can only—
This is one of the, unironically, this is one of the best examples out there for how important it is to win elections, because this shines a huge spotlight on what's happening. I know it seems like, oh, well, what can she actually do? Well, it's a discursive thing, because now people are going to talk about this, people are going to see this, and those who weren't previously aware of what's going on will have something to point to or look at that they can go, oh, well, okay, so this is happening, or here's an example of it being talked about. You know, it's important to not construct an environment where the political ruling class can get away with a completely one-sided narrative. You need some kind of dissent who might, in fact, be able to get sort of disproportionate attention.
Be seen as an explicit effort to silence students and take away their First Amendment rights. No student, Mr. Speaker, not one, should be met with academic repercussions or policy brutality on their own campuses for exercising peacefully their right to free speech and assembly. Why is it, Mr. Speaker, that my colleagues and every headline from mainstream media is more concerned and outraged about these protests than they are about the over 35,000 Palestinians killed in Gaza? 70% of them are women and children. There are no universities left in Gaza. No outrage. Multiple mass graves have been uncovered at several locations that Israeli forces have recently withdrawn from. 200 bodies found at El Shifa Hospital, literally fresh bodies found with their hands tied behind their backs, naked. Where is the outrage for these war crimes? And this is not just me.
I can't believe Hamas would go so far as to train Palestinians to tie themselves with their hands behind their back and then shoot themselves just to frame Israel. Sickening.
This is the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights.
While naked.
Our government isn't just complicit to this genocide, we're actively participating. Students are occupying their campuses to peacefully protest for an end to—
Stop, this is serious. I'm being serious in the sense of, like, it's so obvious and straightforward that that's the level of conspiracism that you would need to engage in to justify and defend Israel's behavior. Like, remember how early on there were credible people arguing that, like, there's no evidence of genocide or war crimes, and now in order to genuinely believe that, you would have to be like fingers in ear, like nah, like you would have to be so disingenuously you might as well be defending, like, this is like Pol Pot tier shit, like just like the delusion on display in order to pretend that the IDF isn't just a barbarous gang of thugs killing and raping with very, like, little oversight, or that the oversight that exists also just doesn't care, you know, with very little internal discipline. All those, like, Israel's the most moral army in the world. Every drone strike has to be vetted by a squad of elite lawyers who all have, like, pledges of humanitarian, and it's like, is that true? No, they just said it. Like, no, that's all that's bullshit. They just do whatever, you know?
These atrocities and divestment in this genocide and apartheid. They are even renaming some of the buildings after Palestinian children that have been killed. These students should be praised for standing up for what they believe in, not vilified, smeared with misinformation campaigns and silence. I call on these universities—
Yeah, and asking ChatGPT where to bomb next, you know? Yeah. I'm sure they're a big team of lawyers who go over the humanitarian impact of every single strike, go over every one of their, like, AI-directed strikes, yeah.
To end the repressive tactics, to exercise restraint, to denounce the ongoing police brutality, and stop suppressing the very activism, academic freedom, and thoughtful debate that they seek to inspire.
The lawyer is Alan Dershowitz. They just have 12 Alan Dershowitzes, or Dershowitzi. On at a big rectangular table, like every time ChatGPT suggests another bombing target, they're like, okay, and it's just that, and that's the system of vetting that they engage in, you know.
Inspire in their students. Mr. Speaker, we don't want to see an apology years later. No, we want to see action today to protect these students. We don't want to have you all in 10 years praise the same students for doing what was—
But if he was their lawyer, how'd they kill kids? Oh shit, you're right. Alan Dershowitz would never vet an airstrike that could possibly hurt a child. He needs them for later.
Right, years later. We don't want to see that. We need it now. They deserve it now.
Well, Godspeed, Rashida Tlaib, you know? I don't know how much coverage this specific speech is going to get, but, you know, moments like this do mean quite a bit. Like AOC showing up at the, it was Columbia, right? AOC showed up at Columbia. I saw a bunch of dipshit, like, power anemic lefties on Twitter saying that AOC was causing trouble by being at the protests, but it's actually incredibly based and red-pilled that powerful, nationally recognized representatives would show up and directly support student protesters. It's actually pretty cool.
Nice to meet you.
There were a bunch of people on Twitter who were like, no, she's a fake lefty. She took a picture with Biden. She's not real or whatever. It's, yeah, so the key distinction between, like, people actually involved in change and people who want to sit on the sidelines and critique change. Also, copyright strike music? Hello? Please? Stop playing. Stop it, please. Please. She's so pretty. Please. 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 Alright, they kept the music playing. Whatever. The point is made. It's not gonna stop. I know. Sean Fain tweeted in support of the protesters. Makes sense. I'd be surprised if he didn't. The UAW will never support the mass arrest or intimidation of those exercising the right to protest, strike, or speak out against injustice. Based, remember, union power. Union power. And then we have the two reactions to this. Speak on it from Nina Turner and rescind your Biden endorsement. Thank you. That's fantastic. From as always, from people very invested in bettering the world. Follow my alt, Ho Chi Minh. She, her, Hammer and sickle, right. Okay, yeah, that all tracks, yeah. You have people who want to make the world better, and you have people who want to sit on the sideline. CPUSA, I don't know what I expected. Yeah, the jokes kind of write themselves. CPUSA sounds kind of sussy. I need a haircut so bad, man. Wait, is CPUSA denouncing the protests? No, just the concept of getting anything done. CPUSA denounces the bourgeois concept of progress and of work, you know. And just as a general rule, like if any like left-leaning political party in the United States, you can safely ignore. They're worthless and they contribute to nothing. They're anemic. They know that they won't have any like outcome politically, so they basically just LARP clubs.